Hi, and welcome to our Feminine Mysteries. My name is Catalina Rivera, Dois, and in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you how I discovered the blood mysteries, my personal story. And as you settle in, I invite you to place in the comments where you're tuning in from. I'd love to hear from you. And if this share resonates in any way, please consider liking and subscribing and sharing. This supports the channel. It's absolutely free and also supports my work of bringing ancient new womb mysteries and wisdom back onto the planet. So let's start. How did I fall into the blood mystery? So a little about myself. I've been a seeker all my life since I was very, very young. I joined like my first Gnostic group at 16. And, again, from there, I went down like a scientific track. I trained as a nurse midwife and did all that like allopathic route to health and well-being, and simultaneously was training as a Reiki master. Was a Reiki master by 18, and over the following years and decades continued this dual path and continuing to explore different ways of connecting to spirit, to enhancing our well-being, complementary therapies, journeys, medicine work of all shapes and sizes and kinds. Always a seeker. There's always the sense of that there was something that was out there for me, that there was something I was here to do and be in the world, and I couldn't quite put my finger on it. And this lasted for the majority of my life until I stumbled upon Priestess training, which brought back online a part of myself and an umbrella, right, of understanding of who I was meant to be in the world. But there was still something missing. So it was in that first year of my, like 7-year training as a priestess. That first year, as in all big initiations, like everything was being dismantled, everything was falling apart. My life was falling apart. At the end of that year, it was winter, and like my marriage seemed to be crumbling. My work was drying up. Like I was in a complete dark night of the soul. And in that in between time, right, between the end of the one year and the beginning of another, in that liminal space where I wasn't held in any program or with anybody, something landed in my field. It was, random, like most journeys start, like a random quiz that had a question about relationship to your menstrual cycle and your period. And there was a little comment there that said something like, well, I love my period. I drink my blood. And I took it first as a joke. I laughed out loud. I thought it was, just somebody being funny. And then I stopped myself. There was something right in the back of my mind, and there was a whisper of spirit saying, stop and just listen a little bit deeper. And I questioned, well, do people actually do that? And again, this is my area. I trained as a nurse midwife. I was at this time working in labor and delivery. Had wealth of experience in women's health, and considered at this point that I had a really healthy and loving relationship with my womb, with my cycle. I thought I knew everything that there was to know, from the medical standpoint because of my medical training, and from the energetic standpoint. I was a training priestess. I'd been in energy work for decades. I'd been in women's circles. Like this was my jam, right? And yet here was this place where I'm like, oh my goodness, there's a hole. There's a deep, vast hole that I've never seen before in my knowledge and understanding. So again, at that point, there was much less of what is now available. I try to do a little research, and found there was nothing out there. Like even at that point in the medical field, there was no research of like the composition of menstrual blood. We knew nothing about it. And spiritually speaking, there were just rumors and stories. And though it had survived in certain lineages, there was a feel patriarchy had still kind of put its tendrils into that, and I could feel the dissonance. And I was guided very clearly to stop trying to look for answers outside and come within, and actually become a mystical scientist, like explore and just see what happened. So I donned my mystical scientist robes and began a period of exploration. I bought myself a moon cup and actually dove into exploring menstrual rites as I was remembering and channeling, and from there expanding and just recording again from the physical standpoint, like what was happening, what was feeling, what I was feeling, and spiritually what was happening. And the results were like mind-boggling and mind-blowing from the very beginning. From the first time I attempted a menstrual rite, through those first cycles, every interaction was powerful and catalytic and healing. And the things that were happening, not only as my direct experience, but even mirrored back in my life, were so powerful that it went beyond my capacity to just kind of rationalize it or explain it away, right? Like some examples, like the first time I placed moon blood on my altar, very simple, right? I could, as I was walking to my altar, even though I was completely on board with, putting my moon blood on my altar, treating it as sacred as a first step, I was having heart palpitations. I was having these waves of fear arising within me. I was literally hearing voices coming from within in different, like some were male, some were female, different accents, right? Saying things like, what are you doing? You're crazy. You're opening portals to evil. You are, this is dangerous. Basically, I was hearing all the subconscious programs that I was holding in my subconscious, right? That had been absorbed. That's why the different voices, they've been absorbed through the culture, through our lineage, through the world, and their views of menstruation, even when my conscious mind was fully on board. So that was one of the huge benefits, right? That as we step into our blood mysteries, we are brought face to face in a very visceral and powerful way to face what lies deeper within, right? But then on lighter notes, the first time I anointed an intention, I really wanted to take a class that I did not have the money for. And I anointed my intention, and that evening I received the full amount of that money, exactly to the T of what I needed to step into that course, right? The first time I drank my moon blood, diluted, and then the second time and the third, right? I had experiences where this was all done in the secrecy of my bathroom, right? When I walked out, I had people asking me, oh, you're glowing. Are you pregnant? And not just once, right? Multiple times after these rituals, I would be stopped and asked by people that knew me, you're glowing. Are you pregnant? The first time I drank my blood undiluted, right? I was plunged into such a deep, altered state that I had to go home and get in bed. And it was this experience of being plunged deep into the womb of the earth or mother. It was heavy and deep. I could barely keep my eyes open. And at the same time, it felt so good and so nourishing. And through that full night, I was being woken up by these light flashes happening in my body. And I had this sensation, this feeling of being like literally being rewired physically and energetically. And again, these are experiences that were beyond my imagination or anything I was planning for or looking for, that I had to surrender to the journey. And through this, again, my life completely changed. My perception of energy, my capacity to channel, to connect, to co-create, like my whole life was turned upside down, opened up. And I found what I'd been looking for my whole life. Finally came home to myself, to my path, to my purpose, to my gifts, and all from settling from reclaiming, settling into my womb and reclaiming my womb and my blood and doing the healing that comes with that journey. This is not for the faint of heart, and yet it is so rich in rewards. So this is how this unfurled. But again, this was my experience. So thankfully, again, I was in priestess training. I had access to other spiritual sisters. So I was, and the blood mysteries are traditionally remembered and experienced in community. So even though this was something that wasn't available, I could not sign up for a course, right? Or a circle or a temple to guide me through that in that point. But I was being held by an intimate group of sisters that were holding me through this process and creating the container for me to connect so deeply and receive all that I was receiving. And then from there, I started sharing with other interested sisters and putting notes together. So finding the common threads, the universal experiences of diving into the womb and the blood and the pathways in and the rituals and what happens with them, right? And from that collective experience, recollection of others' experiences, this lineage was born, right? And our first foundational course of the temple was born, creating a pathway, and all the information and the energetic pathways and energetic transmissions and awakenings and catalyzing that is needed so that we actually have a deep experience, right? Because it's not as simple as just, of just manipulating your blood, right? It's possible to access it that way. But like all ritual, the mechanics themselves are empty unless the deeper connection is there, right? And this deeper connection is what this temple is about, is allowing every woman to have that plug in and find their way back to their own medicine, which is unique for every woman, right? But the energetics, the container, the structure, the pathway is universal. And that's the mission of our temple, of providing that for women. So you have the container, the pathway, the keys to your own womb, your own magic, your own medicine. So I hope that piques your interest. If this resonates, again, consider looking at the description. There's some free resources there. You are also always welcome to step into our Blood Mysteries home study journey into sacred menstruation, which is the foundation to actually having these experiences for yourself and beginning your own journey, supported, guided, so that you can have these deep experiences with your own womb and blood. So yeah, if this resonates, explore there, press like, share, subscribe, if that feels in alignment for you. And thank you for being part of remembering our feminine mysteries and remembering that all that we need is literally right here inside of us, and that it is together that we remember. So all my love, many blessings, happy moon times, and I will see you in our next video.